Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing you another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the McFarlane DC Multiverse, DC's Rebirth Godspeed. Godspeed is a Flash rogue. He's another speedster with similar abilities as the Flash, and this one is based off the comics. This figure was in stock at GameStop. I went ahead and ordered him. They are charging $5 more than retail, which is really annoying, but you know what? Screw it, whatever. Here he is today. So let's go ahead and check out the packaging. As you can see at the top, 22 moving parts, McFarlane Toys, ages 12 plus, DC Multiverse Godspeed. Here he is in the package. Looks like a couple of Speed Force effects, a collector's card, and a display stand. One side of the package, Godspeed from DC's Rebirth. Other side, simply says Godspeed. At the bottom, got a bunch of credits, and there is a barcode, in case that helps anybody. And at the back side, here he is posed up. So with no further ado, let's open him up. Alright, now they got this figure out of the package. Here he is with all his accessories laid out. He does come with 2 Speed Force effects, a display stand, and a collector's card. But before we take a look at those, let's talk about and check out the actual figure. So this is Godspeed. His real name is August Hart. He's a Flash rogue, or a Flash ally, depending on the scenario. He used to be a detective partner of Barry Allen. Eventually, he got the Speed Force powers. He became a vigilante, but went way too far, murdering anybody, getting revenge on people. He's definitely also been part of Flash Rogues Gallery. He's currently dead in the comics. So let's take a look at him. And so far, I think he looks absolutely fantastic. This is Godspeed from the Rebirth comics. He gives me a big Zoom vibe. That mouthless mask. The white and the gold looks very nice together. All white eyes surrounded in black. He's got, I guess, sort of lightning bolts inside his head. Different texturing on the different parts of the figure, different parts of the suit. It all looks really nice so far. Really like that face. Double jointed elbows, double jointed knees. Looks like that new style ankle and wrist, not the ball joint. Looks a ton more seamless than before. I love McFarlane is improving on these figures. Very nice looking figure. Another Flash, Rogue, and Speedster. And just a closer look at his face and head sculpt. Upon further inspection, the eyes are more sort of a silver. Now my guy seems to have one eye, his left one shut a little more than the right one. Not sure if that's intentional to give more personality, but honestly, I'm just guessing it's sort of paint error. It does kind of give more personality. I don't think it looks bad. Overall, I think his face looks absolutely fantastic. Something about it just really works for me. And like I said, really getting a Zoom vibe off this guy with the mouthless mask. Now let's take a look at his accessories, and let's start off with the boring stuff. Here's his display stand, typical McFarlane stand, black perfect circle, says DC on the bottom. It's got one peg for the peg holes on his feet, very thin, very basic. Here's his collector's card. As you can see, it's an image of the Godspeed figure, just sort of standing there. Godspeed from DC's Rebirth comics. The back side, there is a description. If you want to read it, go ahead and pause now. Now let's look at the Speed Force effects. Some semi-transparent plastic. Looks kind of like lightning. Looks like it's going to wrap around his arms. 2 different pieces. Here's Godspeed, just standing there with no Speed Force effects. And here he is, in a running pose. And here he is, with the Speed Force effects attached, running toward you. You could also just sort of having them holding the Speed Force effect, looking intimidating, looking badass. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and his accessories, now let's check out his height. From bottom to the top of his head, he's standing at about 7.1 inches tall, which could translate to about 18 centimeters. Now let's check out his articulation. Starting with his head here, of course, it can rotate from side to side. You can look up about that far, down about that far. Can tilt his head from one side to the other, giving him a good amount of personality. Shoulders, ball joint, goes at more than 90 degrees. Up, down, around, all that good stuff. He's got this butterfly joint here. It's covered up with a gap, and it's giving him little bit extra range of motion in his shoulder area. Bicep cut below that. Double jointed elbows, they go all the way in. Now his wrist, this is really cool. This is new with him in the Flash figure. Not that old ball joint. It's a lot more seamless. Can rotate, and it's going to be hinged. Sort of splits into two different pieces here with the hinge. And it looks a lot better than those giant ball joints they would use. In his torso, he's got a ball joint. Rotate around, go forward and back. Another one in his waist. Rotate around, go forward and back, giving him a very good range of motion in his torso area. Legs, completely different splits. Not a ball joint, but a similar type concept. Rotation is pretty much non-existent. Go forward about that far, back about that much. Double jointed knees. And his ankles, very similar to the wrists. They got rid of those ugly giant ball joints. This is very seamless looking. Forward and back. Can rotate, no problem. And tilt rock. Pretty much anything you'd want out of an ankle. To articulation. Love the improvement here. And here. Love how McFarlane is continually doing that. The only bad thing, I don't like how big these butterfly joints are. They sort of come out very easily. Ruins the aesthetic as it doesn't match either part. Now I wanted to look at the reuse between Godspeed and the TV series Flash. Upon first glance, I thought there was a lot of reuse. They both seem pretty tall, pretty thin. But looking at both the figures, I don't believe there's a single bit of reuse between these two guys. The only thing that could potentially even be reused would be like the kneecaps or the little ankle and wrist joints, but that's probably not even the same as well. Now let's switch to a different city setup. Here's Godspeed running through the streets of Central City. Here's a side view of him running, and an up-close frontal view. Here's Godspeed meeting up with Zoom and Reverse Flash, planning the Flash's demise. Flash runs in here, angry as hell, running so fast that there's fire under his feet when he stops. Now let's check him out, next to some other action figures, starting off with some other McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here he is, next to the white suit Injustice 2 Hot Pursuit The Flash. I know a lot of people were using this guy's Godspeed, because just look at him, it makes perfect sense, although this new Godspeed figure is absolutely blowing this Hot Pursuit Flash out of the water. And here he is, next to the Rebirth Flash. These characters are both for the Rebirth comics, so these would be the appropriate figures to interact with one another, although the Rebirth Wally West would also be appropriate. Here he is, next to the Injustice 2 Flash. Then, with the Justice League Unlimited animated Flash. Here he is, with the DC Cinematic Universe Ezra Miller Flash. And finally, next to TV's Grant Gustin Flash. Let's not forget some other speedsters. Here he is with the Reverse Flash, and with Red Death. Here's Godspeed, next to all the different Flash figures McFarlane has made so far. Here are all the different speedsters McFarlane has made so far. I count a total of 14 of them, and bring on more. Now let's check him out, next to some other recently released McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here he is, next to Batman Beyond's Unmasked Batwoman and the Atomic Edition of Blight. Then, with the Future State Batman and Dark Detective. And here he is, next to a couple of General Zod figures. Then, next to the Rebirth Batman and the Infinite Frontier Robin. Here's Godspeed, next to the Rebirth Martian Manhunter and the Lois and Clark Black Suit Superman. And here, next to the Justice League Endless Winter Aquaman and the Death of the Family Joker. Then, with Ultraman and the Zernar Batman. And now, next to the all-gold Anti-Crisis Wonder Woman and the gold label variant of Todd McFarlane's designed Wonder Woman. Here's Godspeed, next to the Injustice 2, Green Arrow, and Reverse Flash. Then, next to the Infinite Frontier Grifter and the Arkham Knight. And here, next to the Rebirth, Reverse Flash, and Wally West Flash. And here he is, with the TV series Flash, and the Future State Superman, Superboy. Here's Godspeed, next to the most recently released McFarlane DC Mega Figures, Titan Joker and Clayface. Here he is, next to the Batman 3 Joker's Wave. Then, next to McFarlane's The Batman Collection. And here, with the Gotham Knights figures. Here he is, next to the Batman The Dark Knight Returns, Collect to Build a Horse Wave. And finally, next to the Justice League Endless Winter Collect to Build a Frost King Wave. Now let's check him out. Next to all the different Flash figures that I have, here he is, with all the McFarlane DC Multiverse Flash figures. Then, next to a Noble Toys Bendy Flash. Then, next to all of my DC Direct and DC Collectibles Flash figures. And here he is, with all of my Mattel Flash figures. Now let's check him out, next to some other Speedster figures that I have. Here he is, with a couple of Kid Flash figures. Then, with all of my Reverse Flash figures. And here, next to my Zoom figures. Then, next to my Red Death figures. Now let's check him out, next to some action figures from different various companies, to see how he fits in both scale and style-wise, in case you want to know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's a McFarlane figure, they're typically the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the larger action figure lines I collect, and work my way smaller. But first, we're going to check him out with some of his McFarlane Toys brothers and sisters. In front of you are 5 different action figure lines, all from McFarlane Toys, all 7-inch scale. Then, next to some more McFarlane Toys, these are from different various video game properties. And now, with some Jack-specific wrestling figures. And here he is, next to some DST, or Diamond Select toys. Then, with some DC Direct and DC Collectibles figures. And here he is, with some NECA figures. Then, next to some Mattel wrestling figures. And now, next to some Jazzwares AEW wrestlers. And here he is, next to some Mezco 112 collective figures. Then, with some Mattel DC Universe Classics and Multiverse figures. And here, next to some Mafex figures. Then, with some Hasbro Marvel Legends. And here he is, with some SH Figure Arts action figures. And finally, next to some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. Overall, this is an absolutely fantastic figure. Pretty much everything about the figure just works for me. I think his face looks great. The only things I don't really like about this guy would be the butterfly joint piece. It's just a little too big and it comes out too easily. And then his accessories, a little bit difficult to wrap around his hands. Beyond that, sculpt and paint job are excellent. Articulation is great. Only thing missing is a little bit of thigh articulation. I love the improvements on the ankle and wrist joints. His accessories, they're okay, but one cool thing about them, you can use them for any of the Speedster figures you want to. If I were to rate this figure, I would give him a very solid 8.5 out of 10. I'm just really enjoying this guy. Pretty much just everything about him works, from his face sculpt, his articulation, the hands they chose. It's just a good package deal here, and the fact that he's a comic version makes me even happier. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.